He almost drove past her car, but that decision would alter his future. The road stretched out under the pale November sky, a thin ribbon of asphalt cutting through miles of farmland and tired little houses. The wind carried a chill that hinted of winter's arrival, rattling the last brittle leaves clinging stubbornly to the trees. In an aging blue pickup truck, Michael Harris gripped the wheel, his mind already running faster than the engine. He was late again. The morning shift at the hardware store didn't wait for anyone, especially not for a 36-year-old single father who was already skating on thin ice with his boss. The thought made him tap the steering wheel nervously, glancing in the rearview mirror at the reason he kept pushing through every day. His daughter Lily. She sat in the back seat, humming quietly to herself, swinging her feet that didn't quite reach the floor. Her brown hair framed her face as she worked through a math worksheet balanced on her lap. She was only 9, but her determination made her seem older. Michael's heart warmed watching her scribble an answer and bite her lip in concentration. "You're going to ace that test," he said, his voice trying to sound confident, even though his mind was still stuck on the overdue rent and the letter from the landlord waiting on the counter at home. "Mrs. Adams says I'm getting better," Lily replied brightly, without looking up. Michael smiled, but the weight pressed harder on his chest. He was proud of her, proud of how she carried herself with hope, even when life seemed determined to throw obstacles in their path. But pride didn't pay bills, and the truck under them rattled like a stubborn mule, reminding him that even it was on borrowed time. As he approached the intersection that led to the highway, something caught his eye. A dark SUV was pulled over on the shoulder, hazard lights blinking like small beacons in the gray morning. Beside it stood a woman, pacing with a phone clutched at her ear, her breath visible in the crisp air. Her posture was stiff, her movements sharp, the kind that came from someone who wasn't used to being stuck and helpless on the side of a rural road. Michael's foot hovered on the brake. He glanced at the clock on the dashboard. Already 10 minutes late. Stopping meant another lecture from his manager. Maybe worse. His hand tightened on the steering wheel. From the back seat, Lily's voice piped up, innocent and curious. "Daddy, what's wrong with her car?" He sighed. "Flat tire, looks like." "Aren't you going to help?" she asked, her big eyes staring at the stranded figure through the window. The question hung heavier than it should have. Michael hesitated, his thoughts running in circles. Helping meant losing precious time. But driving past meant teaching his daughter a lesson he didn't want her to learn, that you ignore someone in need if it's inconvenient. The silence in the truck stretched as the SUV and the woman drew nearer in the passenger side window. Michael could hear Lily shift, her voice softer this time. "We should stop, right?" His chest tightened. The words stung with truth. With a frustrated exhale, Michael flicked on the blinker and pulled onto the shoulder. The gravel crunched under the tires as the truck came to a halt. Lily's face lit with pride, and Michael forced a smile, trying to ignore the knot forming in his stomach at the thought of another scolding from his boss. "Stay here, kiddo," he said as he killed the engine. "I'll see if I can help her out." He grabbed the old toolbox from the bed of the truck. The same box his father had given him years ago, its red paint faded and dented, but still dependable. Stepping out, the cold air hit his face, carrying the smell of damp earth. He walked toward the woman, raising a hand in greeting. "Morning," he called out. "Trouble with the tire?" She turned, her sharp features framed by a dark coat that looked far too expensive for the dusty roadside. Her hair was pulled neatly back, and she held the phone like it was a lifeline. Relief flickered across her face at the sight of him. "Yes, thank God. Roadside assistance says it'll be over an hour, and I have a meeting in the city I can't miss. I don't even know how to change a tire." Her voice was steady, but carried an edge of frustration, like someone used to being in control and now finding herself powerless. "Lucky day, then," Michael said with a half-smile. "I'm not roadside assistance, but I've done this a few times." She looked at him skeptically for a moment before nodding. "I'd really appreciate it." Kneeling beside the SUV, Michael inspected the tire. Completely flat, not salvageable. He popped the trunk, found the spare and tools neatly packed, clearly untouched. As he started working, he heard the truck door open behind him. "Lily," he called, looking over his shoulder. "What did I say?" She stood next to him already, her hands clasped behind her back, grinning. "I just want to help, Daddy." The woman smiled faintly at the sight of her. "She's adorable. I'm Olivia, by the way." "Lily," the girl said proudly, "and this is my dad. He can fix anything." Michael chuckled as he wrestled with the lug nuts that resisted every turn of the wrench. "Don't set the bar too high, kiddo." But the warmth in their exchange seemed to soften Olivia's guarded expression. She crouched down, holding the flashlight he handed her. Together, the three of them worked, the sounds of passing cars blending with the clinks of tools, and Lily's constant chatter about school, math tests, and her dream of becoming an artist. Michael's arms strained, sweat forming despite the chill as he finally loosened the last stubborn lug nut. With effort, he swaked the tire, his hands blackened with grease. He tightened the bolts with practiced focus, every turn echoing the discipline of years of hard work and quiet resilience. When it was done, he stood, wiping his hands on his jeans. "That should get you where you need to go until you get it replaced properly." Olivia let out a breath that looked like she'd been holding it the entire time. "I don't know how to thank you, really." Michael waved it off. "Don't worry about it." But Lily piped up, tilting her head. "You could buy us hot chocolate." Michael shot her a look, half stern, half amused. "Lily." Olivia laughed, the sound breaking the icy morning. "I think that can be arranged. But please, at least let me give you something for your time." "Not necessary," Michael said firmly. "Just paying it forward." She studied him for a moment, as though unused to people turning down money. Something softened in her gaze, but Michael was already walking back toward the truck, Lily bouncing beside him. As he started the engine, Lily asked, "Daddy, why didn't you let her pay us? We could have gotten hot chocolate for real." He looked at her in the mirror, his tone gentle but firm. "Because sometimes kindness is enough. You help someone because it's the right thing, not because you get something back." Lily thought about it for a moment, then smiled. "Like superheroes." Michael laughed softly. "Yeah, except superheroes wear capes, and your dad wears work boots." The road stretched ahead again as he pulled back onto the highway, but something about the moment lingered in his chest, a quiet sense that this choice, this stop, was more important than he realized. The morning stretched on, and Michael drove in silence, his thoughts tangled. He replayed the look on Olivia's face when he'd refused her offer. Most people would have accepted, maybe even demanded payment. He wondered if he'd made a mistake, especially with rent hanging over his head like a storm cloud. But deep down, he knew he couldn't have done it any other way. Still, a quiet unease lingered. Choices like that had a way of circling back, and sometimes he wasn't sure whether they came back as blessings or burdens. At the hardware store, his boss scowled the moment Michael walked in. "Late again, Harris," he barked, crossing his arms. Michael muttered an apology, sliding behind the counter to start unpacking shipments. He kept his head down, shoulders tight, hoping the man would move on. But the glare stayed, heavy and disapproving. By noon, Michael's back ached from lifting boxes, and his stomach growled. He'd skipped breakfast, saving the last 2 slices of bread for Lily's lunch tomorrow. When his shift finally ended, he picked her up from school. She ran into the truck, waving her graded math test proudly. "Look, Daddy, I got an A." His chest swelled with pride, the fatigue slipping for a moment. "That's my girl. Told you you'd ace it." The weekend came, bringing with it a bitter cold front. Their old apartment rattled as the wind pushed against the thin windows. The radiator barely kept up, forcing Michael to wrap Lily in blankets as she colored at the kitchen table. Late Saturday night, as Lily slept, Michael sat staring at the stack of bills again. Past due notices glared up at him. His phone buzzed on the counter, and he almost ignored it until he saw the number. Unfamiliar. He frowned, hesitated, then answered. "Hello?" A pause, then a familiar voice. "Hi, it's Olivia, the woman with the flat tire." Michael blinked, sitting up straighter. "Oh, hey, everything okay? That spare hold up?" "It did," she said warmly, "but that's not why I'm calling. I wanted to thank you properly. Would you have time to meet for coffee next week?" He hesitated, glancing at the bills. "I'm not sure I—" "Please," she interrupted gently. "You went out of your way to help me. Just one cup, no strings." The sincerity in her tone disarmed him. After a long pause, he agreed. "All right, one cup." The following Tuesday, Michael arrived at the cafe early. He wore his cleanest shirt, ironed carefully the night before. Lily had insisted he wear the blue one because it makes you look like a superhero. Olivia arrived soon after, dressed simply this time, her usual sharpness softened by a genuine smile. "Thank you for coming," she said, sliding into the seat across from him. "No problem," he replied, still unsure why he was there. After some small talk, she leaned forward. "I didn't tell you this before, but I run a business. Several, actually. One of them manages rental properties, and we need someone reliable for maintenance. I thought of you." Michael blinked. "Me? You mentioned you've done handyman work. I saw how you handled yourself that morning. I think you'd be perfect." His heart pounded. "I don't know. I've only done odd jobs. I'm not trained." "You're hardworking and resourceful. That's enough. Training can come later." She slid an envelope across the table. "This is also for you. Call it a signing bonus." With trembling hands, Michael opened it. Inside was a check for $10,000. His breath caught. I can't take this." "Yes, you can," she said firmly. "It's not charity. It's an investment. You gave kindness without expecting anything. Let me do the same." He stared at the check, overwhelmed. It felt unreal, like a dream he might wake from at any moment. After a long silence, he whispered, "All right, I'll give it a try." The next 2 weeks blurred into a whirlwind. Michael wrapped up his hours at the hardware store and prepared for the new job. Lily watched with excitement, peppering him with questions about what he'd be fixing and if she could come help. The first day on the job, he stood nervously outside a row of apartments Olivia's company managed. Toolbox in hand, he felt the weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders. But when the first call came, a leaky faucet, his hands remembered what to do. Soon he was tightening pipes, patching drywall, replacing old locks. The work was hard but honest, and for the first time in years, it felt like he was building something steady. At night, Lily would curl up beside him on the couch as he told her about his day. She'd listen, wide-eyed, as though every clogged drain he fixed was a heroic victory. The $10,000 helped them catch up on rent, fix the radiator, and even buy Lily a new pair of sneakers without holes. They celebrated with a small pizza, Lily declaring it the best meal ever. Weeks turned into months, and Michael found himself growing into the role. Tenants began to recognize him, greeting him warmly, grateful for his quick responses. Olivia checked in often, always offering encouragement. One evening, after finishing a late repair, his phone buzzed with a text from her. "You're making a bigger impact than you realize. Proud of you." Michael stared at the screen, emotions swelling. He didn't know how to reply, so he simply typed back, "Thank you." But life wasn't suddenly perfect. There were nights when emergencies kept him out late, when exhaustion threatened to pull him under. Doubts crept in. Was he really cut out for this? But each time, he remembered Olivia's faith in him and Lily's hopeful smile, and he pushed forward. One Saturday, Olivia invited him to meet at the same cafe where everything had started. She arrived with a calm excitement in her eyes. After ordering, she leaned forward. "I've been impressed, Michael. Not just with your work, but with how you treat people. The tenants respect you. I respect you. I've been thinking, what if you became more than just an employee?" He frowned. "What do you mean?" "A partner," she said simply. "I'm considering expanding the business, and I need someone I can trust. You've proven yourself. I want you to join me." The words stunned him. Partner. He thought of the years spent scraping by, the countless nights worrying about rent. And now, this? "I don't know if I'm ready for that," he admitted. "You are," she assured him. "Think about it. You don't have to decide today." For days afterward, the idea consumed him. He spoke to Lily about it in the simplest terms, explaining it could mean more work, but also more opportunities. She tilted her head thoughtfully before grinning. "You always tell me to be brave and try new things. Maybe you should too." Her words lingered. Finally, Michael called Olivia. His voice shook, but his resolve was steady. "I'm in." And with that, his life took another turn he never could have predicted. The weeks that followed, Michael's decision moved with a new rhythm. Mornings no longer carried the same crushing weight of uncertainty. Instead, he rose early, pulled on his boots, and set out with a sense of purpose that felt foreign yet welcome. Lily noticed too. She beamed at him every morning, proud that her dad now had something that looked like stability, something that felt like hope. Partnership meant more responsibility. Michael found himself sitting in meetings with Olivia, listening as she explained contracts, budgets, and long-term strategies. At first, he felt out of place, a handyman surrounded by spreadsheets and legal talk. But Olivia never let him shrink back. She guided him, patient yet firm, showing him the ropes and reminding him that his instincts, the same ones that made him stop on that cold November morning, were exactly what the business needed. Michael brought a perspective Olivia admitted she had long overlooked. Where she saw numbers, he saw people. Tenants struggling like he once had. Families balancing paychecks against overdue bills. He suggested flexible payment plans, quicker response times for repairs, and small community improvements that didn't cost much but meant everything to those living there. Slowly, the properties flourished, not just as buildings, but as homes. With every success, Michael's confidence grew. He was no longer just patching drywall or tightening pipes. He was helping shape a company that valued people as much as profit. And for the first time in years, he allowed himself to imagine a future not defined by survival, but by possibility. Still, challenges arose. Expansion meant risk, and there were nights when Michael lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if he'd made a mistake. Was he gambling too much on a dream he didn't deserve? But each doubt was met with something stronger. The memory of Lily's words, her steady faith that he could be brave, and the quiet reassurance in Olivia's voice when she said she believed in him. Spring arrived, washing away the gray of winter. Michael and Lily moved into a modest but comfortable house closer to her school. It wasn't extravagant, but it had warmth, space, and a small yard where Lily planted marigolds. She called it their forever home, and Michael, standing on the porch watching her dig in the soil, felt a peace he hadn't known in years. One afternoon, Olivia asked to meet again at the cafe. It had become their place, the backdrop to every turning point in his journey. She sat across from him, eyes bright. "Michael," she began, "do you ever think about how much one choice can change everything?" He chuckled softly. "Every day." "You could have driven past me that morning," she said. "You almost did, but you didn't. And because of that, here we are." The truth of it struck him. One moment of hesitation, one decision to stop, had unraveled into a chain of events that reshaped not only his life, but Lily's as well. "Funny how life works," he murmured. "Not funny," she corrected gently. "Powerful. People underestimate the ripple of kindness, but you didn't. You chose differently." Her words lingered long after the conversation ended. That night, as Michael tucked Lily into bed, she asked the kind of question only a child could frame so simply. "Daddy, do you think we would have met Miss Olivia if her car didn't break down?" Michael paused, looking at her wide, curious eyes. "Probably not. But sometimes life has a way of putting people where they need to be." Lily nodded thoughtfully. "So helping her changed everything for us?" He smiled, smoothing her hair. "It did, kiddo. One small act of kindness can change more than you'll ever know." Months turned into a year, and the business grew beyond what either Michael or Olivia had imagined. Their partnership deepened, built not only on mutual respect, but on a shared vision of making something meaningful. Tenants praised the company for treating them like people, not just rent checks. Opportunities opened, and Michael found himself no longer defined by struggle, but by resilience and growth. Yet through it all, he never forgot that morning, the old truck idling on the shoulder, Lily's innocent voice asking if they should stop. That moment became his anchor, a reminder of where he had come from and the choice that started it all. On a bright summer morning, standing in the yard while Lily chased a butterfly, Michael felt something he hadn't in years: complete contentment. He thought of the cold November day, the flashing hazards on the side of the road, the woman pacing with her phone, and how close he had been to driving past. But he hadn't. And because of that, his world had shifted forever. As he watched Lily's laughter fill the air, he whispered to himself, "One choice. That's all it takes." And deep down, he knew he would never again underestimate the power of stopping, of helping, of believing that kindness could alter the course of a life, because it had altered his. Sometimes the smallest choices shape the biggest futures. One act of kindness on a cold morning gave a father and daughter a new life, proving that when you choose to help, you never know how far the ripple will go. Remember, your next choice could change everything.